going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. That's Dean7904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry. It is 5:10 on the East Coast, 2:10 West Coast, 4:10 Tennessee time. It is Monday. Case of the Mondays all around. Of course, I'm just having the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It's called Grinderslive. Joining me today, the usual suspects, three-man booth, not messing around. It's a no pleasantry slate, 10 games, because the NBA just likes to give us these uneven slates. Also, there's no games on Thursday because of Thanksgiving. And it is a Monday, so Blender is here, and we're going to talk about Andre Drummond because that's all we do on Mondays. What's up, Blender?
I don't think we're going to talk that much about Andre Drummond. He's viable today, but it's not like he's 3K and you don't want to fade him. So, like, no. Yeah. So we don't have to talk that much about.
Yeah, we're going to be we're actually going to talk about that game in the middle. We talked about this pretty sure really briefly. That's the last game of the night. There's no pivots. We currently have Tobias Harris with a hip. He is doubtful. If he doesn't go, obviously there's no Embiid, there's no Simmons. You guys know the deal with Philadelphia. They're facing a Sacramento team is another one that's kind of up in the air because they just fired their coach 2 years too late. Luke Walton is gone, and it's going to be a really interesting how to handle that game from a swappability, game theory, and all that stuff, because I guess doubtful is what I'm going to go with, and I'm going to assume Harris is out, but I guess there's a chance that he can play. We'll see. Stay tuned on that one. We'll give out the body parts as far as who's in and who's out game by game as we progress throughout the show. What's up, Grant? How are things in your world?
Thumbs up.
You were being
You said
seriously.
No pleasantry.
I know. Yeah, you never listened to me. This is the one time you listen. You actually.
Well, I know that this show I have to use my words effectively because they're going to be few and far between with you two on.
Well, your usage is going to be depleted, is what you're saying?
Oh yeah. No. Again, I am Chris Bosh in the. Actually, no. I'm.
But you're saying I'm LeBron, or I'm
no. He's saying I'm the Russell Westbrook of the show.
I'm saying both of you are Russell West. I'm playing with two Russell Westbrooks.
Okay. So
it doesn't matter what player I am. I'm not going to be able to get that much usage.
Basically, Dean is James Harden. I'm Russell Westbrook, and you're PJ Tucker.
I don't want to compliment Dean that much.
Mario Chalmers, can I be Mario Chalmers?
You're Nick Young. No,
I don't have that much swag.
Yeah, you definitely don't. I'm Boban.
Oh well, I mean that's yeah. Well,
no one gives me playing time, even though I should.
Boban's much more charming and likable, though. To be fair,
I'm not going to argue with that. That's not even an insult to me.
Full circle. He's like him and Tobias Harris were like great friends, and they were teammates on Philadelphia. If you ever watched the two of them together.
Yeah, I know. I did.
Well, I assume so, but yeah, the people, maybe the people in chat aren't aware of that. What up, chat? Hit the like button. We appreciate that. Helps us out with the old algorithm. Fire off your questions as well, too. Do put as many specifics in there as possible. We're going to do our best to get to as many questions as possible. Again, 10-game slate. So, probably have 5 minutes or so to knock out those questions. Let's, you want this, Blender, are we just going to dive right on in? Is that how it's going down?
Why not? We got 10 games. Let's do it.
All right, very first game on the slate. Brooklyn at Cleveland, 209 is the total. Cleveland is a 6-point dog. We're expecting Jared Allen back from his illness. Marketing should be available back from I believe he had COVID or COVID issues, and now he's back from his conditioning as well. Jetty Osman currently doubtful for what it's worth. Of course, Mobley's been out for a week plus, and he's going to be out for probably several more weeks. Kevin Durant on the Brooklyn side is back. He was dealing with a shoulder. I did air quotes there. You didn't really see. It's kind of a shoulder. He actually kind of sort of has something there. Joe Harris is still out. Bruce Brown got hurt in the last game. He is out. Nick Claxton's going to be out 2 more weeks for some sort of illness he's dealing with. Hopefully he's all right because that's like a month or so of being sick. One of the potential cheapies, Blender, on this slate, depending on how things crack, and it is like the first game, one of the first game block, 7 o'clock, is the potential of DeAndre Bembry drawing the start, stepping in for Bruce Brown. Minutes equal money. Now, not all minutes are created equal. His minutes, of course, are created very poorly, but his salary is like the floor. That's one of the places I think we should start. Like, and how much do you want to lock in on Bembry with the potential of things changing 7 o'clock, 7:30, or even up to lock? Where are you at as far as Bembry and the Nets?
Well, I mean, minutes equal money, but I mean, how valuable are his minutes? I mean, that's the problem. I mean, the Nets rotation is going to be very
equal pesos.
It's a very small rotation, but I mean, it's all going to be dominated by Harden and Durant. So like Bembry, yes, he's in play. Yes. Is he the most appealing play from a ceiling perspective? No. Can you play him in cash games? Yes. Can you? Obviously, he could be a punt play in GPPs, but like his salary adjusted plus minus in our projections is only like plus 1.78. So it's not. He's not a slam. Truthfully, there's no slam dunk plays. There's maybe two that are higher than others, but like other than that, like Bembry doesn't rate out that much better than a lot of people on the slate. So I wouldn't consider. I would consider him to be more of a detriment to your lineups. Obviously, if he gives you 30 points, then you're fine at 3,100. But for a GPP ceiling score, like maybe Patty Mills at 4,500, I view him the same way. Like these Nets wing guys with Harris and Brown out, they will get minutes. It's just a matter of how much usage do they get. I wouldn't play them both together, Bembry and Mills. Aldridge, I mean, it's viable, but to me, I'm more likely to avoid this game than play these pieces.
Yeah, as far as ownership right now, I'm pulling it up, and we're seeing Mills at 12.9% on DK, Bembry at 11.4%. As far as fantasy points per minute, fire this up. We're looking at Mills at 0.76. Like he's at the mercy of his 3-point ball. If his 3-point ball is not going, he's getting nothing for you. And Bembry at 0.66 fantasy points per minute. What are your thoughts here, Grant, as far as the Brooklyn side? Of course, we haven't talked about Harden and Durant, and you can always play Harden and Durant, but they're not necessarily popping. They're fine if you're running 150, but I don't think they're like the top stud you have to get in the slate. And then work your way over to Cleveland.
Mostly fade in this game. And Bembry and Mills are really the only two guys that are in play, and that's just because of their cheap price tags. The injuries, they should end up playing a decent amount of minutes. It's just kind of the way it goes, where you get guys this cheap, this big of a boost in minutes, they can always go off. I mean, I'm not expecting Patty Mills to go off for 7 for 7 from 3-point like he did in the first game of the season, but either one of these guys can end up being serviceable value plays. I don't think they're requirements, but they are two of the better value plays on the slate, in my opinion. Outside of that, yeah, like I don't really want to play Harden or Durant. Both of them are priced up enough where I think I'd rather go elsewhere, rather pay for guys that are slightly cheaper with similar median outcomes. So I just kind of off all the Brooklyn players outside of those two cheapies, and the Cleveland side with the price tags where they're currently at, with the guys coming back, I don't know if I really want to play anyone there. I mean, Rubio and Garland kind of priced up considering the potential production. If with Markkanen back and with Allen back, like in Markkanen, we don't know how much he's going to end up playing. Like it's an interesting spot where there's too many bodies, especially too many big bodies, and then there's Okoro, who's worthless, and then there's Rubio and Garland, who are priced up considering what they've been doing really recently.
Worthless. That's pretty harsh, but yeah, points.
Fantasy,
worthless to us. 0.6 fantasy points per minute.
Is.
Yeah. It's a rough. And also, like you said, like he's 5K. He's not even like the dirt floor. 5K, you can't play him. We're projecting Rubio to jump back on the bench, which kind of makes sense with the Markkanen coming back and Allen coming back. We're expecting it to be Garland, Okoro, Wade, Markkanen, and Allen. Yeah, Garland is the most interesting piece, I think, in this game, specific to FanDuel. You have a pretty good discount over there. He's 7.2 on DK, which is hard to talk to. And on FanDuel, Garland is 6.2. Do we like that blunder?
Yeah, I mean, play him on FanDuel.
Yeah,
Dynamite dropping.
Hey, that's right. Like he's cheap on FanDuel. That's all
Anytime someone is cheaper on FanDuel than he is on DraftKings, that typically means he's a good play.
As far as we're projecting Allen for 33 minutes, like he's coming back from an illness. He missed several games. It is a little tricky with this Cleveland rotation. Markkanen, we're expecting 28. But he's fully priced up there as well too. So I don't have much else to say. I didn't really ask you about Cleveland besides Garland there, Blender, but you have a thought as far as Cleveland, or we're just kind of moving on?
I mean, I'm not a big fan of this game. If I were to take a shot on someone, it would be Markkanen at 5K, because what happens if he plays 33 minutes? I mean, like he's not a hard, he's okay. He's a okay type of GPP play at 28 minutes. But to me, that he has a ceiling. Obviously, he could play 34 minutes. Obviously, he could also only play 20 minutes. I mean, like, I think he's the high variance player of this lineup. So if I were to play anyone, it would probably be him and hope for ceiling minutes outcome. But outside of that, I'm just not a big fan of the entire game.
Yeah, it's pretty much where I'm at as well. Let's move on. Already spent too much time on it. Charlotte, Washington, 216 is the total here for Washington versus Charlotte. Charlotte is a 4-point dog as far as the body parts, as far as who's in and who's out. We still have, well, not officially ruled out just yet. I don't believe PJ Washington's still doubtful, but I can't imagine he plays. And there is a chance. There's always a chance for Davis Bertans to come back for Washington. Even if he does, I can't imagine he runs out too many minutes, maybe 18, 20, something like that. Grant, this is another one of those games where, Washington, this is a game we would have loved last year for sure, but Washington plays slower. Westbrook's gone, and they play better defense. So they're not as appealing to pick on. I don't like this game basically at all. Just as a general thought, I think Beal is interesting on FanDuel, I want to say. I think he's kind of sort of someone interesting, but yeah. Grant, you tell me, what do you like with this game?
Can I just interrupt for a second? Bertans just announced ruled out.
Okay, there you go.
And let me just, that news doesn't change anything for me.
Same.
Yeah, no, full on fade this game. I mean, everyone's priced where they should be. It's that simple. Beal always in play for tournaments. LaMelo always in play for tournaments. But everyone's priced where they should be. Washington, you're right, is playing better defense, playing at a slower pace this year. Charlotte is the good matchup, so Washington has a good pace-up matchup. But with Beal in this lineup, these guys are not really that playable. I mean, yes, you can take a shot on Harrell. Yes, you can take a shot on Beal. But I will fade this game.
Beal 8.5 on FanDuel, which is a pretty decent price. And LaMelo is not completely crazy at 9K. Always a threat to triple double. Of course, you don't get that bonus on
like
FanDuel.
Cade Cunningham.
I may have hit Cade Cunningham yesterday for the double versus the Lakers at like plus 1100. Grant, I think it was.
I
plus
may have hit
1100.
Cade Cunningham for over 15.5 points, which he did not hit. He was at 13.5, and he's like, "Nah, I'm good."
Oh man, there's other things that happened in that Laker Detroit game that we'll get into another day, I suppose. But can't talk about that tonight. Oh man, so that was wild for sure. Are we just moving on? Are we 10 game slate? This one's not a priority here, Blender. We'll just keep it going.
The only two players that are maybe you could take total GPP dark flyers are the two starting centers, Gafford at 4,400 or Plumlee at 4,500. There, you never know. Someone gets into foul trouble. Don't play them together. So other than that, PJ Washington's out, right?
He's doubtful, but I assume he's out.
Right. Other than that,
hurts Plumlee. Plumlee is okay, playable on FanDuel at 4.5. I'll say that, but what's
he's probably not going to pay down at center over there.
Correct.
So, but I'm just saying on DraftKings, I guess. The whole game is mostly overpriced, so not interested.
We're going to move on to another game that I'm not terribly interested in either. Houston at Boston, 214.5 is the total. Boston is priced a 12.5 point favorite. We're expecting a blowout. Boston getting everybody back. Jaylen Brown back from his hamstring. Robert Williams, Time Lord, he's back. Josh Richardson's questionable with an illness for whatever that's worth. Dennis Schroeder, once again, was on the injury report, but he's expected to play. He is probable. And Blender, with everybody coming back, usage is going to have to shuffle down. Tatum's great. The matchup against Houston is awesome. That's one thing you can say. And you could play the what if game. What if this game stays close? We have Kevin Porter on the other side, who's currently questionable. He's missed a couple games recently. If this game stays tight, Houston does tend to play their guys a bunch of minutes. Like Christian Wood's a really, really good play. If he sticks around and plays 35 minutes or so, you're probably running back with someone in Boston, maybe, I suppose. But Blender, who do you like here when you consider the salaries, the asking prices? Brown's going to eat away on everybody a little bit. Williams back hurts, Horford to some degree. Schroeder takes a hit with, Brown being back. It's just hard to like anybody in Boston for me.
If you're going to take a shot on anyone in Boston, it's Marcus Smart, 5,500 on DraftKings. We also have Josh Richardson is questionable, so maybe that helps him a little bit. I'm not going to do that much. Yeah. On the Houston side, we have Porter is questionable. And looking at our what if projections, which you could get. So anytime you see a questionable player or a possible, guy that could be out, we have what if projections for our premium members. So while we have our projections up normally, anyone that is questionable, we keep in the projections until proven otherwise. But we have a set of, what if projections of if this guy is out, what does the rest of the team look like projection wise? And you could get that with the premium membership by clicking on the link in the description, getting $10 off your first month. But I'm looking at that. If Porter's out, it doesn't really do much, right? It doesn't slight bump to Wood. Eric Gordon gets a bit of a bump, but I think he's overpriced as he is. So basically it turns Eric Gordon into a map play as opposed to a definitely don't play. So Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I guess you could play Wood. I mean, to me, this game isn't that appealing either. I mean, we're eventually gonna get to the point where we're not playing anyone on the slate. But I swear, they're gonna be better games later on in the day. And with these being the early games, maybe this is the type of slate where you kind of maybe you take off until 7:30 or 8 o'clock and you just leave your spots open.
They can hang out and watch you tonight. You're doing a football show, aren't you?
Sure, but it's hard to do NBA late swap while you're doing a football show.
I'm not talking about the people. I'm talking about the people, not you. Like whatever you.
I mean, maybe is it hard to pay attention to the NFL pre-lock show while you're doing NBA late swap? I think
no.
Greg can multitask, right?
I can. I'm very good at that. I'm
Horford
knitting a scarf underneath the desk.
You're sitting in the dark, by the way. I don't know. Did it just get
No,
darker?
I'm sitting in the light. It's just there's more light behind me because this is a window.
I feel like I'm interrogating you right now, looking at the video. I don't mind the Horford price on FanDuel at 7.2. I think that's okay. And maybe if I'm playing Wood, I might pair him with Horford or something like that. But Grant, you tell me, are we wrong as far as this game not being terribly interesting?
Nope.
Like Houston plays at the fastest pace in the league, and they don't play great defense. So in theory, there should be a lot to eat. But again,
it's another spot where you have a player coming back and price tags haven't fully adjusted. So with Brown back in the mold, all these guys are too expensive with the exception of maybe Marcus Smart. The chance of a blood is pretty drastic. So what you want to do here is game stack, but again, nothing's interesting on Boston. So the bring back is not a good idea. If KPJ ends up missing, it's definitely an uptick for Wood. It's an uptick for Green. Both of those guys would be viable if this game stayed close, but not a good matchup going up against Boston. Probably not going to stay close. It's a game you should probably just fade.
Jetty Osman officially ruled out. We projected that, right, Blender? I'm assuming that was in our projections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's already out.
Yeah, he was doubtful, so I'm assuming we had him out. And Lamar Stevens also was doubtful too, and he's not playing basketball either for the Cavaliers. You guys got anything else? Or we're moving on? That's it?
Yeah, the next game is a little bit more interesting.
OKC and Atlanta. I assume that's the next game. By the way, after the OKC Atlanta game, then we're going to talk about the Philadelphia Sacramento game. I don't want that game to get squeezed. I don't want the game to get like 3 minutes or something like that. For some.
That's why I am making us go quicker. As you know, we're like 10 minutes ahead of schedule. We normally wouldn't be on to the games right now.
Normally, we'd still be talking about Andre Drummond. Normally, we'd still be talking about.
Well, this is why you can fade him. This is why you can't fade him. And that was dynamite internet television for sure. OKC versus Atlanta, 213.5 is the total. Atlanta is an 11.5 point favorite. It's funny, you guys said this is the interesting game because, OKC just has so many dudes. And yeah, the most important thing here on the OKC side is that we see a questionable tag for SGA. He's dealing with an ankle. I assume I was watching the game and he came out like a minute ago. It was a close game. He came out and looked like he was lobbying the coaches and then he came back in. I assume he said, I'm fine. But also OKC is not in the business of winning basketball games in 2021. They don't really care. They're probably going to lose anyway, like any excuse to rest guys. And their record's probably better than they want it to be fair. I think they've won like 4 or 5 games or something like that so far.
How do you know they're not trying to get into the playoffs, Daniel?
because they live in the world of reality. They're on planet Earth.
They're 3 games out, or they're 3 places out.
Would
you
you
one place out actually for the play-in game, dum-dum.
Would you like to make a wager that the OKC Thunder do not make it to the playoffs? I'm happy to say they do not.
Are you going to give me better odds than the sports books?
Well, no, I'm going to give you the same odds.
Well, then why would I go with you instead of the sports?
Because
book?
there's a certain satisfaction. You're
not going to get. You're not going to get limited by Dean. You're never going to get limited.
You're not going to get limited.
I don't think any sports book will limit me from placing a bet on the Thunder to make the playoffs.
But Dean, do you have a promo for Dean? Do you have an odds boost or something?
Yeah, Dean, where's my odds boost? Give me my crowns.
Even better than crowns is the satisfaction of taking American dollars from me.
I hate taking money from you because I don't like taking money from people that I don't completely hate.
And Dean wonders how we lose track of time on this show.
Yeah, well, Grant a minute ago was just bragging. Well, we've been so efficient thanks to me, and then he starts talking about OKC.
No, then you start talking about OKC.
You said they're going to make the playoffs, so there's a chance.
No, I didn't. I asked, how do you know they're not trying to make the playoffs?
Because come on, these people live in reality.
they got a nice young core there.
Do they though? I don't know if they do. I'm not sure. He's fine.
SGA.
He's solid, but
Baisley.
Derek Favors. I don't think Baisley is good. He's a serviceable NBA
If
player.
Giannis was on that team, would they be one of the favorites?
Well, you could say that about any team in the league, and they would be a bigger favorite than if you put them on OKC. Blender.
Really, Houston? If you put Giannis on Houston,
now you're gonna do that.
Dean, you're wasting time, and this game is exciting based on the SGA news.
So if Giannis was on Houston, then Houston would all of a sudden say, "Hey, John Wall, go play." So yes, they will be better. Blender, boom, checkmate. Blender, do you still have the if-then stuff up? Because what do we say if SGA is out? How does that shuffle things up? Because OKC tends to run sometimes 11, 12 guys. And I know there's some sort of a debate is if their G League guys will be available for this game or if they're not available. I wonder if we got an update on that.
I don't think it matters. They just create play. Like in video games, you can just create players. Seems like that's what the Thunder do. They'll run 12-man rotations with guys I've never heard of before.
Like
but if
Robinson Earl.
If SGA is out, the biggest bump goes to Darius Bazley. So Bazley's not that bad of a play at 4,900 on DraftKings, even with SGA in. Giddey is 6,000. He gets a bump also, but not as much. But he's also 6,000 on DraftKings. And Lou Dort at 5,100 becomes okay. So none of these guys are jamming in. None of these injuries situations today make anyone like you got to wait for this and then jam this guy into like all your lineups. No,
that's what I thought.
But I think that like Bazley, if he comes in at like only 5-6% owned, if SGA is out, I would like to play him as a power forward, punt play kind of. He's 4,900 on DraftKings. But I mean, if SGA is in, like, I guess you could play Giddey, Bazley, or Dort. You could, but they're just like kind of meh. And then on the Atlanta side, Bogdanovic is questionable. Again. And if he's out, the biggest bump goes to Cam Reddish. But he doesn't turn into a jam it in play. He just turns into, okay, I guess you can play him for 3,600. Cam Reddish becomes someone that you'd play instead of DeAndre Bembry. And it's kind of weird because they used to play together. So
do you have that in front of you, by the way? Does Herter also get a bump?
I mean, Hurt is 4,200. So like it's not, let's see. Let me scroll and see. Atlanta Hawks. It depends on how much of him. He gets a 6%. He ends up still being a negative salary adjusted value play, right? If anything, DeLon Wright gets in the rotation, right? And he gets 24 minutes, right? I mean, some people get small bumps, but the biggest bump from a salary adjusted value perspective is Cam Reddish. Everyone else is kind of like, yeah, they get a bump, but they were so poorly projected to begin with that now they're just up to being like they're going from being a very bad play to just like a bad play.
I think our projection's a little bit low on the Red Velvet on Kevin Herter. I think it's a little bit low as far as 21 fantasy points tonight.
Vegas doesn't agree with you.
They have a number for fantasy points?
No, but I mean, you can look at numbers based on assist prop, rebound prop, turnover prop, steal block.
Sounds like Dean's taking another bet. What's the odds?
I'm not rostering Kevin Herter because he's going to get 4 rebounds. I just think
you can add them all together. I already bet the under on his points prop anyways.
On Herter?
Yeah.
So does that mean you're assuming Bogdanovic doesn't play, or you just don't care?
I don't really care that much.
What was his points total?
I don't know. I think like 12 and a half. It was something high.
Yeah, 12 and 12. We have 12 and a half in lineup HQ. 4.5 rebounds, 2.5 assists.
The disrespect for Red Velvet, man. I don't like
it. Dean clearly knows better than Vegas.
I thought those buildings, they build them just because they're nice and cool. They actually make money. They actually profit in Vegas. Is that how that works?
Not when I'm there.
Grant, what do you think of this game?
I mean, I like the OKC players more than our if-then function really says. Like, I like Bazley, I like Giddey, I like Dort. I think that SGA in there, they get a bit more of a increase. And yeah, I mean, a lot of it's contingent on this game staying close. So they're more like, I don't mind this game stack. Like, I'm not a huge fan of anyone over on the Atlanta side as an individual play, but I do like the idea of playing Trae Young with Giddey and Bazley, or Dort and Giddey, or Bazley and Dort. Like, I like those 3 players if SGA is in fact ruled out, and Trae Young just becomes the obvious guy to bring it back with.
Yeah, I don't get the Young often, but I hear you. If this game stays close, and he can afford 40 real extra points in the bucket. By the way, did you put in other bets out there you want to care to share with the people right now?
I have like 20 bets out there.
Give me your 3 favorite.
I'll say them as we go on to the games.
Oh, okay. And where can I get them in like a nice little format?
Scoresandodds.com. Scores and odds. Sign up using the link that Devin is going to drop in the chat. If you have premium, I don't know if you get 5 free days. Devin, you can tell me or not. But I mean, in any case, just sign up. It's free. It's free money. Like, you just pay attention to my picks, and like, I don't know, I'm up like 60 units, not on my scores and odds picks, but overall on basketball. Just throw my picks in, and you make enough to pay for your membership.
What about the rest of them, though? Andy Means? I just recently.
Yeah, they're all positive
STL
EV,
cards,
but I'm
Roto.
saying you could just put my picks in and pay for your membership. You've been doing that all year long. You've made a decent amount of money.
Is there anything else to be said about this game? Like, you got anything, Blender, as far as the Atlanta side, as far like you like Trae Young as like your big spend?
No, let's go. Come on. Let's get on. Sacramento, Philadelphia.
I just want to make sure. Yeah, so Sacramento, Philadelphia is the very last game of the slate. It's on its own island. It starts an hour after the second to last game, Memphis and Utah at 9 o'clock. The reason why we're moving this game up as far as importance, we want to give as much time as possible, because as of right now, we're expecting Tobias Harris to be out. Tobias Harris unlikely to play with his hip. Danny Green continuing to be out with his hamstring. Joel Embiid continuing to be out for the health protocols. And then Sacramento is fully healthy, but they just fired their coach. And so, like, who knows what they're going to roll out? Maybe they dust off Morgan Bagley and give him some run. I have no idea. They had this thing where, like, Mitu, there's like the previous regime said, yeah, we got to get a sample size of Mitu. Let him start, 3, 4, 5 games in a row, and we'll see where we stand there. Well, who knows? Maybe Mitu's just back to the bench. Maybe they start Harkless. The more important thing, I think, is the Philadelphia side here, Grant, where we're looking at a projected starting lineup of Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Niang. We have Harrison there right now, but that's, I assume, I got to hit the refresh button.
Yeah,
it's probably
refreshing, dub.
Korkmaz is probably in there with Drummond, right? That's my assumption.
I think the projected starting lineup is going to be Niang probably starting.
Mm-hmm.
Dude likes to shoot, and I'm in, like, for this game, I think it's interesting both on DFS and sports betting who's going to end up getting the start, Korkmaz or Niang, because I think either one of them, as soon as we get the starting lineup, I'm probably firing the over on whoever's starting between those two, and for points and probably 3-pointers, because those guys are going to chuck whether they make them or not. Doesn't matter. Well, it does if you want to win, but the value is there based on if they're going to be starting, because they'll play minutes and they're going to chuck the ball a lot, because without Harrison, they're obviously a little bit of a usage hole there. But I mean, regardless, everyone's kind of in play for this game. Maxey is a little bit priced up, at least over on FanDuel. You can play him in a game stack. I'd probably avoid playing him otherwise, but Seth Curry seems far too cheap considering his potential role if Harris is ruled out. Niang, if he gets the start, or Korkmaz, if he gets the start. Even if they don't get the start, I think you can play either of them just because they can get hot from behind the arc and get a boatload of points. Both those guys should end up with a pretty decent outing. So wait and see on the starting lineup, but both those guys are in play. And honestly, if you want, just throw Niang in there. And if he doesn't get the start, just swap over to Korkmaz for about 300 cheaper. But it's just without Tobias Harris, we know what happens. Everyone gets a bunch more usage. Just going up against Sacramento, I prefer the game to be played in Philly, because even with a new coaching regime, this game still has a chance of being a blowout without Tobias in there. I think that Sacramento is probably going to be better without Walton at the helm, but this should be a faster paced game with what was it, probably, I can't remember, Gentry coaching. Like, it should be a faster paced team in Sacramento. They're going to control more of the pace being at home. And this is just a beautiful game without Harris in there. That I think you can go almost every which way, because there is so much uncertainty when it comes to Sacramento and a new coach.
Philadelphia, the slowest team in all of basketball. Sacramento playing a little bit faster. Obviously, they're top 10 as far as pace. They're bottom 5 as far as defense. Blender, I'm pulling up our ownership stuff. I'm going to look at DK specifically. We're looking at 41% ownership for Seth Curry, 30% for Niang, Korkmaz for 32%. Drummond at 16.8%. The Philadelphia side, like, this is the game. Maxey out, we're projecting 36 minutes for Maxey, which may be soft. We've seen him play like 39, 40, 41. We've seen that happen before. So there's room to move up. Projecting him, of course, the price is pretty full at 7.4K, but we've seen him smash that many times. What are your thoughts as far as Philadelphia? Who are you prioritizing? Do you have a favorite amongst the bunch?
Well, they're playing a 9-man rotation, and I mean, Charles Bassey is just going to be the backup center. Tybal is primarily there for defense. I mean, Isaiah Joe will barely play any minutes. Milton will come in, obviously, as a backup point guard. So, like, to me, it's the front court. It's like that. Like to me, I don't. How does Niang not play 30 plus minutes? How does Korkmaz not play 30 plus minutes? I mean, like it's almost impossible for that to happen. So I have no problem playing two of these guys. You know, I like the game stack as a whole. So I like the Sacramento side to go along with it. So I think a lot more people, we see, oh, this ownership, 36, 41, 32% ownership. And you go, well, if you play them and Sacramento's ownership is like what, 12, 13, 9, 4, like just play your Philadelphia guys with Sacramento players. And then you don't have to worry about Niang's ownership or Curry's ownership. Because on the other side of the ball, everyone's viable. I think Halliburton, Barnes, Fox, Holmes, and Hield off the bench. We don't know. Yes, you're right. We don't know what Sacramento's going to do, but I know that it's not going to be Tristan Thompson, right? I know it's not going to be Alex Len. Right. It's going to be the main core guys. So like playing the main core guy, if anything, they have the most upside. New coach. They want to stay. Okay, let me don't make any drastic changes immediately. And it's like, let me just roll out the 5 best dudes and play them as long as possible, especially against a team that doesn't have Embiid, doesn't have Harris, and Simmons is, who knows where the hell he is. So I don't expect Marvin Bagley to just walk into like 36 minutes for no apparent reason.
Yeah, probably not.
So I could absolutely see myself, playing you could play 2 Sacramento guys with your Philadelphia guys. To me, this is the most appealing game of the entire slate.
Yeah.
And it's also going to be the most owned game of the entire slate. But I think that once you start stacking the 76ers with the Kings players together, and then you could get different in some other spots, I think you're perfectly fine.
I love the Fox price on FanDuel where he's 7.3K. I know he's been disappointing this season as a whole, probably taking a slight step back, but this feels like a game like, 7.3 in FanDuel. I'm willing to play anybody for the right price. That feels like the right price. Grant, what are your thoughts as far as the Kings?
I bet the over on Holmes points, Holmes rebounds, Buddy Hyde points, and strange enough, the under on Harrison Barnes 3-pointers.
What's the number?
1.5.
Is he?
It seems
Walton
low.
wanted him to shoot 8. Remember Walton said you got to shoot 8 a game. That was basically the thing he said. Has he not been doing that of late?
No, he has not even come close. Like you look at his 3-point volume, it's gone down drastically, which looking at the last few games, let's see, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2, 4, 2. That's like last 7 games in terms of 3-point attempts. So I finally Harrison Barnes made me a lot of money earlier on the season, betting is over in points, over in rebounds, over in 3-pointers. Now I'm kind of on the other side of it. Just he's a guy that gets in the groove of things, starts chucking a lot, and then just entirely stops. We saw it multiple different points last year. He's kind of a hot and cold streak guy when it comes to volume, and so I'm just willing to ride the unders on it right now, which makes me like the other guys in this game a significant amount more. I mean, I think Holmes could end up with a decent amount of minutes if he could stay out of foul trouble going up against Drummond. I think they give him a little bit of extra run here. Fox has been so up and down all season, but his price tag sitting there at 7.6K, and we've all seen the upside from him at numerous times throughout his career. And I think this is a spot where he can go off. Buddy Hyde, like with a new coach and there, like he could end up shooting the ball from behind the arc like 12 times. He could end up with slightly more minutes, getting into the mid 30s. So I kind of like everyone here, even Halliburton. We don't know how the offense is going to look with him in there with a new coach, and he could just end up taking on a bigger role because he is a talented guy. So there's uncertainty, and I'm willing to roll with it considering the high total in this game and the fact that I'm playing guys over on the Philly side because this game can just turn into a complete and total shootout. So I really like all the Sacramento pieces. Strange enough, except for Barnes, which means Barnes is probably going to destroy my night.
Well, I'll say this. I think you could be right about the 3-point thing as far as Barnes, but also I don't know if it's right to say he's not a good play on DK at 6.3. I think that's a good price. So like maybe he's not even
I said I'm not playing him.
Yeah.
I didn't say he wasn't a good play. I said I'm not playing him. I'm going with this possible outcome where it's the other guys.
Yeah. All right. We got anything else this game, Leonard, or shall we move on?
Move on.
Good call. I like the pause there for dramatic effect. Let's talk about Minnesota at New Orleans. Another kind of sort of somewhat interesting game from a DFS perspective. 214 is the total. New Orleans, another disappointing team. Alvin Gentry's whole team. How about that? 3-point dogs here versus Minnesota as far as who's in and who's out and all that good stuff. We have, well, for New Orleans, Devontae Graham is questionable. Minnesota, we have Naz Reid questionable, Josh Okogie questionable, probably not going to play. Mostly fringe pieces if Graham doesn't play. I mean, Josh Hart was a massive disappointment last time out, but I think he's still well positioned to do things. They got blown out. Ingram's another guy. It's been more disappointing this season than not, but I feel okay with Brandon Ingram today. Jonas Valanciunas, Minnesota, one of the worst rebounding teams in all of basketball. Gotta love Joe Val. Guys, remember Joe Val was like 6'5" on FanDuel? That was fun, right? They've only figured that one out. Blender, what are your thoughts as far as this game in Minnesota? It's just kind of sort of hard to figure out who of Cat, Russell, Edwards, maybe two of the three get there. And Pat Bev has been solid of late, but his price has kind of crept his way up, and he's still a low usage guy. And yeah, he can hit his threes. He can steal 3 or 4 balls, but he's hard to rely on. His floor is rough, and the price has moved up a little bit. So I'm pushing him down a little bit. And then there's Vanderbilt, who just rebounds and gets stocks and will never shoot. Your thoughts here?
Well, if Devontae Graham is out, it doesn't change that much in our projections. Brandon Ingram gets a little bit of a bump, and he's already decently projected as it is. Kira Lewis probably just enters the rotation and takes whatever minutes off of there, and it gets spread around to Garrett Temple and Satoransky and whoever. So it doesn't do that much. So that's not like news that I need to have. But Ingram, Hart, Joe Val are all in play. I prefer Ingram because he's both guard and forward eligible. So unless you're building like stars, and if you're playing someone like Bembry, you're probably playing like a stars and scrubs type of build. And I prefer on this slate more balanced builds. And I think Ingram fits that mold more, and he's eligible at 5 slots in your
he's a shooting guard now on DK, which is I don't think of Brandon Ingram as a shooting guard, but whatever. All right, we'll just take it. That's what they gave us. We'll handle it.
Wasn't he shooting guard for a while last year on FanDuel?
Brandon Ingram?
No, he was always small forward or power, sometimes power forward.
Yeah, I don't remember him as a 2 ever, but yeah, whatever. They do goofy things sometimes, right? What are your thoughts here, Grant? Do you have a favorite stud on each side? Is this a game that appeals to you?
I think that Towns, we currently have projected with 16.2 or 0.5% ownership. I think it's going to come in lower than that because the other guys on the slate. I like Towns, 9.5. He's done well against Joe Val in the past, if I remember correctly. Towns seems a little bit cheap considering his upside going up against a terrible Pelicans team. This game is projected to stay fairly close. I think Towns is probably the play from the Minnesota side, although I'd never argue with Russell or Edwards. I think either one of them can put up a pretty massive outing. On the Pelicans side, yeah, if Graham ends up missing, I kind of like Ingram more. I think you can play Joe Val. I also should mention that Pat Bev's still a little bit too cheap at 5K considering, and I did hit the over on his points, assists, rebound prop.
What's the number?
17.5. I've been hitting that a lot lately. And it's been hitting pretty frequently. So they just haven't changed it, even though he's been doing well and he's been playing minutes and blah, 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 blah. So I like Pat Bev a bit. I really like Towns. If Graham's out, I think Ingram or J Val are both in play. And if you want to throw either of them in a game stack, if Graham does end up playing, I don't hate that either.
I think one of the more popular plays in the slate, even on FanDuel, Josh Hart, we're projecting him at 38%. I know he flopped last time, but I think the entire team flopped, right? They got blown out. 5.3K, especially if Graham doesn't play. Do we like that chalk blender?
That's fine.
Look at us motoring through, and Dean
it's
just
fine. The only thing that I would say about the Wolves side is that on DraftKings, Towns is 9,500, Russell 7,600, and Anthony Edwards is 7,400. I'd be more inclined to group out and only play one of them, right? Between the Towns, Russell, these are the types of guys where one could put up 60, and then the other two are kind of like snowflakes. So if you're going to play one of these guys, don't play two of them together. Beverly is 5K. You can play Beverly with any of those guys together. But this is the type of game where I think I'd like it would. You could even play Hart and Ingram together. So you could play Ingram, Hart, Beverly, and then one of the Russell Edwards Towns, and I think that's a perfectly good construction.
All right, Indiana in Chicago, 212.5 is the total. Indiana is just a 2-point dog here, which seems a little bit low. So as far as the body parts, we do have Indiana fully healthy, right? Which we haven't seen basically all season, more or less. Finally starting to get healthy. Chicago, Alex Caruso did pop up in the injury report with a wrist. I think this is what he's been dealing with for the last week or so. We've seen him pop up a couple of times. He's been probable, played through it all the time, but now he is questionable tonight for what it's worth. If he doesn't go, well, do you have an if then for that, Blender? Because I'm not really getting excited, even if he doesn't go, as far as other guys that it'll be distributed.
What would happen? No,
Green
I
and White.
I don't think there's a reason for an if then, because what happens is that like you get Dasunmo and Kobe White just take over kind of his minutes, and like they don't do much either. So it's like it's still just going to be more DeRozan, Ball, and Levine.
Yeah,
Right. I mean, so
that's
like
where I'm at.
yeah, it's not going to change much. If anything, on the Indiana side, to me, the top play of one of the top plays of the slate is Malcolm Brogdon at 7,300.
Are we sure they're going to play a full amount of minutes? I'm confused by Indy. I know the last game was a bit of a blowout, but.
Well, yeah. So what happened last game was they brought on their second unit. I think this was Indiana, right? Was this Indiana? I think this is the game where they brought on their second unit. The second unit crushed, and they just let them close basically. Like they made a game of it. I think that's correct. Am I confusing my teams? I think it's
I think they've done that for like 2 games. No one on Indiana has played over 30 minutes in the last 2 games.
Yeah, but that's a 2-game sample size. Who cares about that?
That was the game against Charlotte. I think the game against Charlotte is the game where the second unit played really, really well. And their minutes have been all over the place. But I imagine, like Blender is saying, like I think that's a very specific examples as far as what's happened over the minutes. And I assume.
Well, my main thing is that that Brogdon is going to be one of the chalkier guys on the slate. So it could just be a 2-game sample size thing. And I think more than likely it is. But because there's going to be a lot of people playing Brogdon, I think it's a better idea to probably fade him with that much ownership, with him popping in projection models. Who's to say they aren't just going to kind of spread out the minutes a little bit more, give more run for the second unit? So that's kind of where I'm at, like with LeVert and Brogdon being really chalky, LeVert drawing some ownership. If I'm going to take a shot on someone, it's probably going to be Miles Turner or Sabonis, hoping that, and it's mostly going to be in a game stack, bring it back with either Ball or DeRozan, knowing that if they do play a full allotment of minutes, then I'm just kind of hoping for Brogdon to give a little bit more to Sabonis and Turner. So it's a weird spot where I just don't know what to make of it. And maybe it's nothing, but I'm largely staying away because Brogdon is popping and everything, and he is projected at 30% ownership.
But it's worth saying that's DK specific. FanDuel, he's not going to be nearly as popular. Just wanted to note that out there. Blender, and also like again, Indiana's fully healthy, and maybe we get a little bit less as far as Brogdon's minutes, like Grant's talking about. And I do agree with that assessment. And also Caruso, if he plays, a slight downgrade. I don't know how much to downgrade it, but incrementally, he's a tough defender. He's annoying, right? Just to have on the court. He just elevates that defense for Chicago. He's one of the reasons why I think they've been improved this year, like DeRozan as well too, obviously. But I'd rather not have him on the court if I'm rostering Brogdon, and I expect Caruso to play, but that's just a guess. What about the Chicago side, Blender?
Meh. I mean, they're all too expensive. I mean, they're okay. Can you play Levine? Yes. Can you play DeRozan? Sure. Can you play Lonzo Ball? Maybe. Caruso? Meh. I mean, like it's they're about efficiently priced. So
Levine on
play them,
Blender.
sure, yes. But I mean, are they the staples of your lineups? No.
Levine on FanDuel, Blender. He's 9K on DK. He's 8K on FanDuel. I think that's where you want to play him.
Right. Any time that's so much cheaper on FanDuel, go over there.
And I feel like DeRozan might have the same sort of deal as far as he's got a cheaper price on FanDuel as he does on DK. He's 8.6 on FanDuel, and he's 9.1 on DK. So the Bulls better plays on FanDuel. Do you have anything to add here as far as the Bulls in this game, or it sounds like you're just not really on it?
I full on agree with Blender. Blender, you gave perfect analysis there, sir.
We got some Celtics news. Robert Williams is probable. Josh Richardson is out. Schroeder will play off the bench, and Jaylen Brown is going to be limited to around 24 minutes. Are you
going to fall for this again? Like every time Jaylen Brown's been limited, he's like smashed. You guys remember this, right?
Yeah, but he's also 9,600. You're not playing Jaylen Brown.
I know. I'm just saying, like, it's the coach, and also, the coach has said that a couple times for Boston. Just sort of note that. I'm not playing him either, but like, just note it that I'll take the over on 24 minutes of Jaylen Brown. How about that?
That's fine. And then it's still not going to matter because it won't make value.
All right. 3 more games. Let's move on. Orlando and Milwaukee. 218.5 is a total. Milwaukee should absolutely shellac the Magic. They are 13-point favorites here. As far as the body parts for Orlando, Cole Anthony, this is the big one. He is not playing basketball tonight. Gary Harris out as well. Yeah. So, and they already announced that Michael Mulder is going to jump in there, the starting rotation. And this is that rare instance. I always like when we get this. I'm not excited that it's Mulder, but I always like when you have the player who's going to start and has a chance to mop up if it gets ugly. I feel like he mops up if it gets ugly also. So you get it both ways, but he's also Michael Mulder, but he is like still minimum, basically the floor as far as the price. Suggs did get a boost as far as his price on DK. It was 3.8 a couple days ago. That was goofy. Now it's, 5K on FanDuel, 6K on DK. We've seen Carter's minutes diminish, partly because of foul trouble.
Yeah, almost entirely because of foul trouble.
Well, also somebody was playing better off the bench too. There was one game where he wasn't in foul trouble. They just didn't let him close for whatever reason. If this game does stay close, then Carter's an awesome play. I think you've been betting him, right, Grant? And I'm guessing you bet Carter again tonight.
Yep, I bet a lot of my money is on this game. I'm hoping it stays close. I don't hate stacking it up, but I have a lot of bets on this game. Cole Anthony just has so much usage in this offense that without him in here, the books have not adjusted enough. And I'm guessing it's because they keep taking into account the potential of a blowout here. But I have the over on Suggs points. I have the over on Suggs threes. I have the over on Carter points. I have the over on Carter threes. I have the over on Ross points. I have the over on Bamba points. I have the over on Bamba threes. Like, all of them are super low. I'm not expecting all of them to hit, but I'm expecting more to hit than not. Yeah. And it's an interesting little spot where, like, I think some of these guys end up going off. And if this game stays close, there's an absolute gold mine. I know that their ownership's going to be pretty high on all these guys, which is why I spent more on gambling on this game than I probably will on DFS, because I do think the likelihood of multiple of these guys hitting it's going to happen. But the price tags on these guys are just far too cheap considering, and Vegas, strangely enough, isn't really fully in agreement. They're not putting big lines on almost any of these guys. Oh, you think
you're smarter than Vegas?
Yes.
I mean, if
when it comes to NBA player props, yeah.
No, let's just leave it at that. You're smarter than Vegas. That's the quote. There's no context added. Like the Suggs price, our Suggs projection, if it's real, if it's correct, if it plays out, 34 minutes, 34 fantasy points at 5K and DK, that's obviously an absolute smash. Jump in here, Blender, because Orlando, we can see. Oh, this is the team actually. Orlando was playing with some of their pieces off the bench that closed strong against Milwaukee. That's what happened. And Giannis was absolutely insane in this game too. Giannis Antetokounmpo. If you guys have the money for Giannis, by all means.
Yeah, they did end up almost coming back.
Yeah, they almost came back with Hampton off the bench, a couple of bench pieces, and they didn't bring back all their starters. It was kind of a mishmash. And I had Milwaukee like -11, and I somehow lost that bet. That was a lot of fun. We may have hedged in real time. Blender, what are your thoughts here?
Classic Daniel.
I would want people to be afraid of the blowout, because I'd play. These are the situations that I like playing the most in DFS. Blowout games that look like they're going to blow out but don't, because a lot of times they don't. And then when they do blow out, sometimes it's only the last 3 minutes, so it doesn't even matter either way. So I hope the ownership on the Magic is lower, because I'll play all the Suggs, Bamba, Ross, Carter, Wagner, and you play Giannis as your stud in that lineup. You play Giannis on one side, then you play Suggs, one of Bamba or Carter, one of Ross or Wagner, and Jalen Suggs is a staple. And you could play three Magic, one Buck, and then build the rest of your lineups around here. I'm not going to be fooled by Michael Mulder, right? Play Jalen Suggs. Don't play Michael Mulder.
Yeah, and that's Franz Wagner. That's not Mo Wagner, his brother. He's not as good in the same team.
No, and the question for Grant is, do you have from following you on Twitter, I'm assuming you have a bet on over 3-pointers for Wendell Carter Jr.
Yeah, plus 180 still.
They always seem to show that okay, every game Wendell Carter's going to hit.
I mean,
2 3-pointers.
Yeah, I know. I've done it like what 6 all of the
like
last
6
6
games in a row or something. Right.
I've done it since like right around my birthday. Actually, I think it was on my birthday, and he's hit 1, 2, 3, 4 of like the 7 or 8 times. So it's always been at like plus 180. So even though it's only hit half the time, I don't care. Like, and I think one night I had him 3+ and 4+, and it hit, and I just mopped the floor. It was a good night. But yeah, no, I've got that to.
We got to move on, boys. It is worth noting our ownership right now. DK, first 5 guys in this game, as far as highest ownership, is all Magic players. And then there's Giannis Antetokounmpo at 14.1%. On DK, we're looking at 29% for Suggs, 22% for T. Ross, Wagner, that's Franz, at 16%, Carter at 16%, and Mo Bamba at 15%. All right, couple more games. We're going to knock out your questions in chat. Devin has been compiling those as well. Let's talk about the Suns and the Spurs. Two teams that played pretty fast this year. 221.5 is the total. Suns are 5.5 point favorites here, Blender. Suns versus the Spurs as far as the body parts, as far as who's in and out. I'm buying time as I jump to my page because I lost my page. Let's see. Well, I'm going to throw it to you, Blender, while I find out who's in and who's out, but I'm pretty sure it's like nobody of significance.
No, everything's fine in this game.
Yeah.
I think Ayton is the top play in the entire game at 7,100 on DraftKings. Crowder is viable as a punt play, 4,200 power forward eligible. Booker, I mean, yeah, I mean, you could play him. And on the San Antonio side, everyone is kind of priced efficiently. I mean, can you play Dejounte Murray at 9,200? Yeah, I guess. Keldon Johnson, sure. Derek White, nah, right? We have Kevin Porter Jr. is officially ruled out for the Houston. Doesn't change much there.
Get excited about Eric Gordon. Not really.
He just becomes he goes from being a bad play to play. Like that's the difference. Yeah. But the general this game, Phoenix Sun Spurs, that's about it. It's not an exciting game. There are some options, but they're all meh. Ayton, I think, is the number one.
Yeah, DK has bumped his price up, but it's been down and they're slowly working its way up, and it's not high as where it should be, is my estimation. It is two of the fastest teams in basketball, number 4 and number 5 as far as pace this year. Grant, jump in here. I do think that Murray on Yahoo specifically, I like his price over there a good bit. I think, did you do rankings over there today, Grant? Me and somebody else did.
I did. It's been a while since I've done it, though.
Yeah.
I'll be updating after the show.
I had him in the top 2 or top 3. I liked his price over there. As far as this game from a DFS perspective, Grant, what do you have for me?
Love Ayton. That's really it. Dog also loves Ayton.
There you go. You got anything else? And any bets you're throwing out there, or shall we just move on?
Over on Ayton, points, rebounds, and points plus rebounds.
Grant, you look bored. Are you bored?
I'm trying to get us to questions.
We are. We're getting the questions. Memphis and Utah, 221.5. This is not the hammer. If you guys are joining late, Philadelphia, Sacramento, we already talked about it. Hit the rewind button. 221.5 is the total. So this is the last game before we move on to talk about some questions. Utah is a 9-point favorite here against Memphis. Well, I'll just throw it to you, Grant. Let's see. Is there anything you want to be efficient in this game? But by all means, go for it.
Like the overs on Triple J and Bane. I like Triple J and DFS. Bane is fine. He's a fine piece. He's priced where he should be. Utah, I think Gobert is a pretty solid play. Mitchell seems like he's underpriced considering his usage. And that's pretty much where I'm at.
But PJ Washington, as suspected, officially ruled out as well. Utah is one of those teams, right? It's just if everybody is healthy, nobody's terribly interesting. I'm okay with Gobert. I like the DK price on Mitchell a little bit, but I don't need it. They're okay. And like you mentioned, I should have mentioned as far as the body parts, 2 kind of sort of key parts. Dylan Brooks is doubtful and Melton is out with a groin. And I imagine that's why you think Bane is more interesting than he typically would be. Blender, what do you have for me?
I think the most interesting piece of the Grizzlies is Brandon Clark. He's a fantasy point per minute monster. And Jaren Jackson also tends to get into foul trouble a lot. Yes, they'll be weak at the wings, but they do have Zaire Williams. They have Tyus Jones. It's like they spread John Conchar. They spread the minutes around in the backcourt outside of Morant pretty evenly, regardless of who's in. So I think I'm more likely to take a shot because Adams is not going to play, 40 minutes or anything. So that front court rotation is going to be short. I mean, Tillman will get some minutes, but if Clark could get, we have him in at 22 minutes and he comes out as pretty good even in 22 minutes, but you give him 28 minutes and he becomes one of the best values on the entire slate, especially when DeAndre Bembry is like 3,100 and going to be chalk. Like Brandon Clark, who's not going to be like single digit owned, but he'll probably be around 8 to 10% owned. I think Bembry is someone that could play 35 minutes and get 12 fantasy points. Brandon Clark is someone that could play 18 minutes and get 35 fantasy points, even if his minutes aren't high. So I'm much more likely in GPPs to bet on the higher fantasy point per minute producer, hoping they walk into more minutes than hope that DeAndre Bembry, who's already going to play the most amount of minutes he's ever going to play, hopefully for some odd reason, Harden to Durant decided to give him the ball to shoot a bunch. So, like, to me, Clark's on this side. On the Utah side, everyone is kind of efficiently priced. Can you play Mitchell? Sure. Can you play Gobert? I guess so. Right? Can you? I look here. It's like if you're playing a Memphis player, then play a Utah player on the other side. If you're deciding between Mitchell and Levine or anyone else in that price range, like that's kind of how I kind of see it.
All right, Grant. Some questions from chat. Brandon wants to know DK, GPP, Jared Allen or Drummond? It's kind of an ownership question to some degree. Cash core thoughts. You know, it's interesting. There's not like a clear and obvious big spend, but your core thoughts for cash would be to start with the Philadelphia cheapies. I would say they are Gorgin Yang. It's probably one of the cash pieces. Oh, and Seth Curry. Like that's probably the places I would start. On DK, it's probably true as well on FanDuel. I would consider Josh Hart in that pool as well. So you don't have to have Josh Hart. You probably end up with him on FanDuel as well at 5.3K. A few more questions here in chat. Well, plenty of questions here in chat. Now, let's raise the stakes. Drummond, Blender, Drummond for FanDuel tournaments, Drummond or Capella? How about Capella?
I don't know. Depends on what the projection is. Depends on what the rest of the lineup is. It depends.
I forgot I shouldn't ask.
You don't ask me questions that have no context.
Right, just
I don't know. What the hell am I supposed to know?
Look cute for the next 4 minutes. Grant, Drummond or Capella for tournaments?
Drummond.
This is a good strategy question. Eric wants to know, Grant, can you play DK tournaments? Can you play both Kat and Joval in the same lineup? The two big centers in the same game? I think so. Why not?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you're hoping to stay close. Obviously, foul trouble is a potential issue, but they're not really that negatively correlated outside of rebounds. But Cat can still get it done from beyond the arc. And I think New Orleans has been game. We had a ton of points in the paint, too. So I have no problem with that.
By the way, you took all those victory laps on me about Drummond, Blender. Remember the previous show? It was, what was it? Oh, God, Porzingis versus somebody. You're like, you can't play them both in the same game.
Yeah.
Scoreboard. And I actually have the
just because something is negatively correlated doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It decreases the likelihood.
Well, now you have my position that I was arguing the last time. I just want to flip it on you. It was kind of fun. All right, a few more questions here. Obviously, what about Jared Allen, top play of the slate with no ownership? I mean, are you certain he's going to get his full allotment of minutes? I know it's a revenge game, Grant, but he's fine. I'm not saying you can't play him. And again, if you get him on the right night for stocks, he can block 6 or 7 shots. I'm not prioritizing him. He's okay.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, they did like when he was crushing. I think Love was still out. Now they have Love and Marketing. Well, neither one of them are going to play a ton of minutes. Huh?
Mobley's out too now.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely hurts a little bit, but they do have some bodies. There's no guarantee he's going to play a boatload of minutes because Cleveland's a bunch of a-holes.
Grant, what about RJ Hampton? Yeah, RJ Hampton crushed last time out. Same opponent.
SGA is ruled out.
Okay. Do you want to give 20 seconds?
I always interrupt with the news. I'm the first one with the
Yeah, no, you guys talk. I need to make some bets.
How important is that, Blunder?
It's very important. I want to play Baisley. I want to play Giddey. I want to play Dort, maybe, I guess. None of these are jamming in guys, okay?
Yeah,
so I just want to make it clear. Right, they become good plays, but they don't become. I still put Jalen Suggs, George Niang, Seth Curry, and Malcolm Brogdon ahead of anyone on the Thunder. And the Thunder say that they're going to start Giddey, Dort, Baisley, Robinson, Earl, and Favors.
Okay. You're like Favors is my least favorite player in that bunch, I imagine.
I think of that. I think the front court, I don't care. They could play 700 people in the front court. So I don't care about that. It's more about the back court and the small forward, like that, those types of positions. So that's why look at that lineup. That lineup is just like basically Giddey and Baisley are going to get all the usage in that lineup.
I just hammered both their points overs.
Grant, are we
sitting at
confident?
11 and 12.
Grant, are we confident in Drummond with Tobias out? Like confident?
I mean,
he's been bad of late for what it's worth.
I mean, I think he's fine. He's still a fine play. The problem is there's a lot of good center. Like, I feel confident enough that he's in play, but the fact that we have Gobert, J-Val, Cat, and Ayton all in here, like I think I'd rather play them.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing cash games, though, I think you're supposed to play Drummond tonight, and tournaments do what you want. Cheapest Atlanta player with the highest upside. Who is that, Grant?
Reddish.
Is that Reddish? I mean, I think it's possibly Herter, but he's gonna be a little more popular.
What's with you and Herter? Just
He's
play
got a great
Reddish.
nickname, Red Velvet. What's Reddish's nickname?
He
Red
should be. He
Velvet?
should be Red Velvet,
No,
right?
he's
He's
not.
Reddish.
Yeah.
No, Kevin Herter. Have you seen his hair? You've seen his hair before,
He's
right?
Right.
reddish velvet.
DK single entry, Grant. Who is the one player you must have? That's interesting. The one player you must have.
I mean, probably Aiton. Like I really like him.
Yeah, I hate saying like the Philadelphia guys because that's the obvious thing, but like I'm
Yeah,
probably
but that's what it should be. Who's it?
Yeah.
Look at crystal ball. You look at the projection. You go, who's most likely? It's most
Yang
likely
and
to be one of the
Curry.
Phillies guys or Jalen Suggs.
Grant, which low-owned Sacramento player to run it back with the Philadelphia stack? Your favorite
I like
player in
Hyde.
Sacramento?
I
Who's
like
it?
Hyde followed by Fox.
Yeah,
Probably
Fox is
followed
the
by Holmes. Actually, I'm probably going Holmes, Hyde, Fox. Holmes is probably my favorite.
the ownership thing. Fox is going to be the most heavily owned player in that team, and people are going to want to run it back. So the qualifier. I hear what you're saying as far as answering the question. He wanted a low-owned player. One more before he step. I asked about RJ Hampton. Do you have a stance as far as RJ Hampton, Grant? I think he's interesting.
He's fine.
Okay.
He's going to be lower owned than the rest of the Magic players.
You have a final thought as far as this says? Blender, tell the people where they can find you at 7:30.
They can find me here on our Rotogrinders YouTube channel.
Dean,
But
tell them where you can find us at 8:30.
Well, you can tell them.
Well, I was going to let him finish.
Right. I would have plugged his show, but you didn't let me. I'm a pro. I know when to plug stuff. Come on.
Yeah, I'm also worried about the time.
Okay. Well, you could watch Grant, Dean, and SBK if he shows up. That's in parentheses. To grind the line after the pre-lock show, where they do a live betting and probably to argue about movies.
Yeah, we're going to argue. We have 3 hours to argue about stuff. That's where we can actually expand on our arguments and really dig into each other. It's a lot of fun. Hang out with us. Hit the mute button on Monday Night Football and watch the game with us. And Grant's going to live bet thousands of American dollars. Grant, final thought. We got to go.
Bet money on legal gambling sites responsibly.
It's a good message, actually. Weirdly packaged. That was Blunder. That was Grant. That was basketball. Hit that like button on your way out. Do subscribe, turn on notifications, all that good stuff. Tune in at 7:30. And if you guys are playing basketball, you guys are premium members, watch the premium show. Crunch Time. Kevin Roth, Andy Means. We're out of here. Holler.
Tickets.